Salut! When you come visit France, hidden cultural differences will lead you to making social mistakes without meaning to, or even knowing that you're making them. Even if you don't see any consequences right away, it may make you quickly feel like an outsider. Or by approaching an experience with the wrong perspective, you might simply miss out on what could bring it from a good to a great one. Now, I know culture is a big word, but it influences people only to a certain degree. It's a very loose set of rules. Customs and values and individual personalities can vary so much that you will always be able to find an exception somewhere. That being said, here are some cultural tips from me so you can better enjoy your time in France or with French people abroad. I'm Géraldine. Bienvenue sur Comme, Française TV. Sound French even to the French. Let's dive in. Une conversation, a conversation, is both your best practice for French learning and a major reward for all your lessons as well. Most people won't try to have a conversation with un inconnu, a stranger on the street or on public transportation, but that doesn't mean that you can't try. There might be surprised or cautious at first, but I bet most of the time you will find out that it pleases people more than they thought. For a conversation among friends, there are a few pitfalls I want to address. First, you might want to prevent your conversation from switching back to English. I did an episode about this precise situation before, so I will leave a link to this video on the video description on the blog. Second, we're much less enthusiastic about things than other cultures may be. Especially Americans, of course. It's a cliché, but while Americans will find everything amazing, a French person would simply react to the greatest thing ever with a disaffected, pas mal, not bad. Don't be discouraged if it seems like we're not enjoying a moment. We're just less vocal about it. It also means that when French people do tell you something is amazing, they tend to really mean it. L'amitié, friendship, is a really strong word here in France. You can have un pote, or des copains, and both words here would mean a friend or friends. But these are colloquially used to avoid saying un ami, a true friend, someone you can trust without question. The important thing to take away here is that friendships in France tend to be strong, so they're harder to make. It takes time, it takes energy, and we try to take them very seriously. So we tend not to throw around things like, we'll get in touch soon, unless we truly mean it at some point. Actually, I made a previous episode about the different kinds of French friends, and you will find all the subtle differences about this topic on this episode, and you will find a link to this episode on the blog below the video. L'argent, money, is a touchy topic in France. Basically, don't talk about it. It can be the money you have made, the cost of things you have bought, the cost of gifts you have received, and the price of things your friends have bought. It's easily seen as rude, for many reasons, one of them being that there will always be someone in the room who has less than others, and they're not expecting to be millionaires one day in the future. Once again, it changes depending on who you're talking to, but a stereotype of French people is that we never really trust a rich person. Yeah. Through all of this comes a defiance against les signes extérieurs de richesse. Les signes extérieurs de richesse, visible symbols of wealth, such as expensive watches or big cars. This doesn't mean we don't have status symbols, of course, but high-class people will prefer to subtly brag about their culture or the amazing experience they had instead. La nourriture, food is sacred. It can be simple or highly sophisticated. You can cook it yourself, or you can buy it prepared from the supermarket or eat it at a restaurant. But in any case, you should always respect the food itself. The point isn't to fill yourself up, but to enjoy the experience and to spend some time with the people you're eating with, friends, I hope. For instance, that's why we tend to have smaller portions. We don't want to waste anything by having to leave it on the plate in the end. It's a show of respect to the cook and to the whole process that brought the dish from the farm to the table. And since the point of a meal is the moment itself and the people you share it with, we don't believe in doggy bags either. Though if you insist, they might give you one in some hotels and restaurants. Les stéréotypes are stereotypes. Not just the ones we have for foreigners, but also the one we have for ourselves. For instance, they can be shortcuts to describe the local cultural difference in various parts of France. Of course, it still varies a lot more on a person-to-person basis. But these stereotypes will also have an influence on what we discussed in the video, some of it being less true in some areas. People in the southern France, for example, are seen as open people with a strong local accent. While they stereotypically speak louder and tend to be more extroverted, they also tend to be friendlier at first sight. And they're famous for fanfaronner, bragging a bit more, always ready to somewhat exaggerate their story. People in the north are supposed to be nicer in their own way, maybe more down to earth, especially since the movie Bienvenue chez les Ch'tis came out. It was a big popular success that helped rekindle the nicer stereotype. Also, it rains a lot over there. Parisians are seen as hipsters while also being sad, stressed out people. They're snobbish and think that only their city matters. Basically, they carry the exact stereotype that other countries use for France as a whole. On one hand, a stereotypical Parisian thinks that La Province, the part of the country that is not the Parisian area, is still existing in Middle Ages and is also useful to go on holidays. But on the other hand, a great deal of people who live in Paris will still claim their roots are from other parts of France anyway. That's a stereotype and it's quite fun. People in the West, like Normandy and Brittany, are seen as all fishermen or farmers, people that will always be ready to share a drink with you. By the way, I've made an episode about La Bretagne, Brittany before. I will leave a link to it below this video if you want to watch it. In the East, they're basically German, yet they're very proud to still be French. And no one really knows what's going on in the center of France, but their cows are pretty tasty. And the one common thread between all these areas is that everyone is really proud of their own specialties in foods and especially drinks. Wine, ciders, beers, calva, pacharan, even mineral waters can be a good local drink to bond with French people over and find out how much you and they differ from your stereotypes. Have you ever experienced cultural dissonance in a subtle way? Tell me in the comment section in French if you dare. I'd love to hear from you and it's excellent practice every week. If you're on YouTube, you will find a link below this video to the blog Française.com. On the site, I read all your comments and answer all your questions as well and only there. If you want more, like an exclusive lesson on the pronunciation of one of the most difficult French subtleties, subscribe now to join my everyday French crash course. It's a free 10-day mini course to sound French even to the French. It's super easy to join. Leave me your first name and your email and I will email you your first lesson immediately. Best of all, it's free. Merci for watching Comme Française TV. Sound French even to the French. Allez, salut!